I think one of the reasons that we haven't connected yet is because I don't do well with the white stuff.
Okay.
I'm African. I'm African, and Africans and snow don't mix.
Yeah.
I keep saying to people that like we have these endless conversations when we're on the road. So, for instance, we were just in South Africa in the middle of the Kalahari doing an ultra secret project. It's hot as Hades. Okay. It's like 42, 41, 42 C. So it's like 109, 110, 111.
Wow.
But also just baking African bush, right? It's just hot.
Hmm.
And we have endless debates like, what would you prefer, to be like that hot or minus 30 cold? And I say, I always want 40 degrees hot because I can get cool. I could get in the
Hmm.
shade. I can like take my shirt off and wave my shirt, and at least I get a breeze on me. If I'm cold, I'm cold. My fingers have gone like zombie fingers. I have those zombie fingers where the blood doesn't get to the end and they become like white and yellow. And
Yeah.
my feet hurt. My hands hurt.
Yeah, and I'm the opposite. I'm like, if I'm hot, I can't cool off unless I'm in the water. But if it's cold, I can always put more layers on, get warm. But I am a pretty cold person, so sometimes you just have to get used to
Like
being cold all the
cold
time.
person across the board, like heart, soul, everything.
Yeah, not quite like that, but yeah, I'm with you. I would probably take some warm weather over cold right now. Yep. Sounds nice.
Well, Tana Grenda, welcome to the Blood Origins podcast. And to give everyone a little bit of history, I reached out to you. I can't remember who was the person who identified you, because you know how Blood Origins works is we have people, we interview people, we do people's stories. And honestly, I'm actually quite glad that we didn't connect when we did, because somebody said, reach out. I can distinctly remember calling you off the back porch in Bay St. Louis, Mississippi, when we used to live in Bay St. Louis, Mississippi. Cell phone signal was horrible, kept
Yeah.
dropping the call. You're like, yep, I'm excited to do it. I'm excited to do it too. But at the time we had no resources. Like we were just flying off the seat of our pants, working off of fumes. And
Yeah.
I just don't think, number one, we couldn't get up there financially. And then two, I just didn't think at the time, not at the time, I thought I could do a good enough job justice-wise for your story.
Yeah.
But honestly, knowing you a little bit better through socials and whatnot, I think now that we have resources, coming up and spending 3 days with you and your family and like getting that whole in-depth experience is going to serve the story so much better. So as I said to you, we're still very keen and we're going to make it happen.
Yeah, we will.
And I'll
Can't
have
wait.
to come up during the white stuff, which is probably the best
Hmm.
time of year for you. So I will do it for you.
Good. Got lots of warm gear for you, so
Okay, perfect.
take you out
Well,
trapping. Then you're gonna fall in love with the white stuff.
yeah,
Maybe.
I'll tell you what, that's the thing that got my kids excited into hunting was, and I'd never trapped before. I come from a society in South Africa that there's really no trapping. The only trapping is illegal through snares and poaching. And,
Hmm.
but also didn't grow up in a hunting community or hunting family. So when I got introduced to this idea of predator trapping in the South and protecting turkeys and quail and whatnot, I was like, man, this is cool. Like trying to like figure out their pathways and intersecting them and catching them on a scent and bringing the scent up to the bait kind of scenario. And then I introduced my kids to it. My kids loved it too, because they could place the traps and they could place the stuff and they could make the scent trail and whatnots. And then it came to struggling with, okay, now that I've got the trap line out, hey boys, we're going to go check the trap line in the morning. And they're all live traps. They're not dead traps. And so my kids are 5 and 3 at the time. And I'm like, well, how do I kill something in front of my kids that's appropriate? And, you think of a headshot being the most lethal way to kill something, but it's also the most gruesome, and it's sort of the
Yeah.
nervous system of that animal goes haywire. And I didn't
Hmm.
even think of that. And so when I did it, I didn't tell the boys that I was going to shoot. I shot. and the animal, it was a raccoon, went haywire. Its nervous system went haywire. And I didn't explain to the boys what was going to happen. And so the boys were pretending to dance like the animal was
Oh, really?
dancing. And I was like, oh, that's not good in terms of like, oh, I needed to explain. And so the next time I did it, I'd actually heart shot an animal, because then
Hmm.
it just slowly passes away. It doesn't have the
Hmm.
nervous convulsion that a headshot does. But they loved it. Well, yeah, long story short, they loved it. It was almost like their introduction to this outdoor lifestyle. It was through trap.
Cool. I love that.
Your kids obviously have been introduced to trapping significantly.
Yeah, it's difficult where we're at because everything is so airplane based unless you have good enough snow in town, our little village, to take a snow machine out and go. So our little plane only holds, one extra person beyond the pilot. So it's not like we can all go out and go on the trap lines. Like we have to take turns if we're, going out of the village away from people and really distancing our trap line. But we do trap, kind of in town, but not in town, out beyond our property.
What is town?
And
Let's be relative for a second. Town is how many people?
400.
Okay,
About.
that's more than I expected.
Yeah, it's a decent little place. And so, yeah, that's our little community. And then there's another little community like 20 miles down the road. We just have a 20-mile road basically that connects the two towns or villages, whatever you want to call it. And it's like the ocean and then the lake. And those are like the two villages out there. And then beyond that, everything is accessible by airplane or boat.
So there's no
So,
road out.
no, we're landlocked. The nearest road
Interesting.
system is about 300 miles away, which is
Holy
Anchorage.
smokes.
So,
So introduce yourself, who you are, what you do. I guess that'll be a varied story.
yeah, so my name is Tana Grenda. I originally grew up in Idaho with a bunch of boys and was raised in the outdoors in the mountains hunting. And I didn't really do any trapping growing up. That's something that I dove into once I moved to Alaska with my husband and we built a family there. But yeah, I'm just a lover of everything outdoors. I've been fortunate enough to be raised in the outdoors from the time I was young, so I don't really know any different. Um, I joke that I was born at the end of October in the middle of hunting season. And so most of my birthday parties I would have to cancel with my friends and go pack out elk with my brothers because that was elk season. So, I mean, I was born that way, raised that way. We lived on 300 acres in northern Idaho, and we had free reign to just play and explore and take the four-wheeler and go fishing and catch turtles. And, that's kind of how I was raised. And so when I became a teenager, we lived local to a little airport here, and my mom used to be a pilot when she was young. And for whatever reason, I just thought aviation was cool. I just got like the aviation bug, and I took an intro flight, and I was hooked. And so I applied for a scholarship here locally. It's like for juniors and seniors in high school, and I won it, which paid for half of my flight school. So I got my pilot's license when I was 18, and that aviation bug with the outdoor hunting bug basically took me to Alaska because I thought, what's the best place to be that combines,
100%.
hunting and airplanes? And I think of Africa, but I went to the cold place, Alaska, and found myself there doing school for air traffic control. And then, long story short, I met my husband and he flew up there as a bush pilot, and he was a big hunter as well. And so we got married and decided to move to the bush. I got an offer with the FAA to be an air traffic controller in a big city, and I turned it down because that was not the life I wanted to live. And my husband's like, "You want to go live out in the bush?" And I'm like, "Yeah, that sounds more fun." So I didn't use my degree, but we built our dream life out there, and still building. We're in our mid-30s, but just enjoying every second of it. And so, yeah, that's kind of our lifestyle out in the bush. Probably a
Is
little
your
different than
pilot license still valid?
I mean, it is if I got my um, biannual review, which my husband's a CFI, so he could do it. But I just don't have the time to stay current with 6 kids right now. I think maybe someday when my kids are a little bit older, maybe out of the house, I'll have the time to put into it just because
Sure, sure.
where we're at, it's not like runway to runway. You're landing ridgetop to gravel bar to the beach to the tundra. And so it's not like easy flying. It's very difficult. You want to stay very current as far as
Right, right.
keeping your hours up so that you don't kill yourself with an
Yeah.
airplane because it can be very dangerous. So I've just let my husband fly, and I don't really care whether I'm in the front seat or in the back seat. I love the experience the same. I used to think that it was the being hands-on in the flying part that I love so much, but when I kind of let that go and let my husband fly us around, like, I love this. It's no stress on me. I can take the back seat. I get to enjoy the view. But maybe someday I'll pick it back up again. But yeah,
Yeah, I think it'd be I
I would
think
hope
it
if
would
my husband could sign me off.
I think it'd lend itself for quite social media entertainment if Adam decided to put you through your CFI training and your
Oh
CFI
my
test.
gosh.
I could imagine that could be quite entertaining.
When we first bought our Super Cub and we moved out there, because we knew that we would own an airplane before a house or a car or anything else, we bought like $1,000 junker car, barged it up, and then we sold everything we had and put a down payment on a Super Cub and just like rented and lived, paycheck to paycheck till we could, pay it off and buy a house eventually and build a house eventually. That's how we all start out. But he started teaching me in the Cub because at that time I was current and I was flying and I had my float rating and my tail wheel rating and everything. And oh, it was a disaster.
Disaster. I could
He's a,
imagine.
he is an amazing instructor. He's helped so many people learn how to fly. But anything you do with your spouse is just harder. And I was just like, I'm just not going to do this because the contention and fighting, and I just can't have my husband teach me. I just can't.
No, 100%.
It's
100%.
tough.
Totally get
He
it.
is an amazing instructor to everybody else.
Yeah, totally get it. Totally
So,
get it. It's funny when you start looking across obviously our community is very, very small. Our community, you tend to know people who know people. And there's a lot of people that have crossed your paths that have crossed my paths. And I honestly don't think I've heard more people say more good things about you
oh, that's so
and
nice.
about, you know, again, what you stand for and your values and your integrity and whatnots. And obviously that's what we're all about is showcasing that side of hunting. And I think that's what you have done and are doing. But I think one of the coolest parts and one of the reasons why we have you on here is you obviously have created a lifestyle for yourself. You've created a life up there. You've seen it. You've embedded yourself in it. You're like, man, this is good for me.
Yeah.
It must be good for others too.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you must have been thinking like, how do I? And I get it. And you can tell me I think it is a business now, but how do you get others in the same place, experiencing the same things,
Mm-hmm.
feeling the same things? And then I know for a fact, because I've talked to many different women programs. I
Mm-hmm.
literally just had a conversation with one earlier this week called the Wahine Wapiti, which is a group of
Oh,
women that is in New Zealand.
very
That
cool.
there's something else that happens when you bring a group of women together,
Mm-hmm.
that they start talking about their trials. They start
Mm-hmm.
talking about their tragedies. They start talking about, strengths. And you tend to lean on one another in those moments and you come out stronger. Again, I
Mm-hmm.
probably just took everything you wanted to say, but I just
Oh,
wanted
it's so
to
good.
set it up exactly how I would imagine you started.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if I could say it better. Why am I even here? Well, first of all, thank you for that compliment. That's an amazing compliment. I really appreciate that. I living out there, it's a lonely lifestyle. It's lonely because I don't have any friends or anyone like myself where I live. Um,
Physically around you.
Physically around, yes. And I had kind of started diving into social media a little bit when I moved out there, but we didn't have internet. Just like we talked about when we were talking, we didn't have internet out there 5 years ago. We just got Starlink like 2 years ago. So we had very limited internet that just didn't work very well. But I wanted to still be able to connect with other women because the experiences that I had the first couple years of living out there were so life changing for me, and it really helped me figure out who I was and what I wanted out of life. And it allowed me to disconnect from the chaos and the stress of the world that we live in. I mean, I didn't want to be selfish in that. I mean, I've gotten a lot of backlash from this. It's kind of hard. You get it both ways. You get where you want to be able to take people out there and experience what you would get to experience and help them and learn. But on the opposite side of that, you get a lot of backlash for, oh, you're bringing people into this place that should be special that you just keep for yourself. And, you should just enjoy this life and not tell anyone because we don't want people to blow it up.
Who's
So,
backlashing against you? Locals?
oh, just a lot of locals. Yeah.
Okay, okay.
So you get both sides, but for me, I just really wanted to take women out there and have them experience what I get to experience. And so that's how my retreats was born, Bristol Bay Retreats. And it was my first ever retreat that I hosted like 3 years ago. We did 3 in a row, and we took 10 women each and we flew them out, via remote bush plane into a remote lake, and we taught them survival skills, and we did backpacking, and we got to see wildlife, and we saw the brown bears, and just had like a really unique wilderness experience. And when I came out of that, it was exactly what you were saying. It wasn't even so much like what they did there was the best part of it. It was how it changed them and how they walked away from that experience more confident in themselves, prioritizing the outdoors more in their life because they get caught up in the day-to-day rush and the day-to-day stress. You also learn to prioritize your life differently where the little things don't really matter. Things we take advantage of like plumbing and heat and air conditioning or wherever it is that you live. When you take all of that away and all of the comfort that we live in nowadays, you really learn to prioritize what's important. Is it my kids? Is it my spouse? Is it my career? Like, you really learn to prioritize what is important. And so that first year that we did those retreats out there and brought a lot of women together was so special because I just heard so many times how it impacted them, how it changed them, some of them literally quit their jobs and moved to a different state because they realized they didn't like the life they were living. So women need that. They need the time and the space to disconnect from the chaos of day-to-day life, of the monotonous routine, to really reflect and to take time for themselves and think, is this the life that I want to be living? Are these the priorities that I want to have? Or do I need to change some things around so that I can, either help more people or be with my kids more or be more present? Or, it's very hard to explain into words, I guess, unless you've really
Well,
experienced it.
don't.
But
Well,
that's how it was born.
can you don't have to name names, but do you have any examples of people's stories of like them coming in with something and leaving changed?
Oh, I have 100 examples. Trying to think of a really good one. Um, I've had multiple women who have lost a parent or a friend or a spouse or somebody that was able to really, I guess, connect with them in nature, if I could say that. And yeah, it's so hard to
Or
put
be
into
able
words.
to move on?
Yeah, they're able to really, I think, process the grief that they've been experiencing for a long time. I've had others who have been caught up in the work and the rat race of, we got to get rich, we got to make money, we got to grow. And they go out there and they realize, oh, maybe this isn't the most important thing in life. and they totally changed career paths when they thought that was what they were going to do their entire life. Yeah, I had one gal that just lived back east, and she realized she was going to move to Alaska the next year. Just uproot her whole family, sell all of her chickens or her farm, and leave and move to Alaska. I mean, people really do change their life path, and not everybody does, but there's a good amount of people that completely change what they're doing when they get that time and space to just be out in the middle of nowhere. What would be another example? I had a gal this year that actually came up with me 3 weeks post chemo treatment, like post her chemo being finished with breast cancer. And yeah, she was a rock star. I was so worried about her. She's like, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to hike. I don't know if I'm gonna have the strength to carry stuff. She came up post her breast cancer treatment, and just really realized how much it was important for her to live her bucket list and do the things that she wanted to do, no matter how many years she's on this earth. And so it's just been really special because I've been able to connect with so many really cool women. And not only that, but we often leave as lifelong friends where we still text each other and we still stay in touch. Or if we're traveling through that state, we're like, hey, I'm going to have this layover at this airport. Do you want to go out to lunch? And everybody still kind of meets up and talks to each other and stays in touch. So you're building a community of women that aren't afraid to talk about their trials and the hard things that they go through in life, but they also can lean on each other for support. That makes sense. So it's been really special.
Yeah, we didn't talk prior to this podcast. You actually blew me off a couple of days ago because you needed to go cat hunting.
Yeah.
But
I go kill a lion.
But we didn't talk. We didn't sort of, hey, I've spoken to these people, and when I asked that question, I had a story that I had heard 3 days ago. And it's interesting that you said right off the bat, the first thing you said was a lot of people come to terms with a loss.
Yeah.
And these ladies that were part of this group, the Wahine Wapiti, one of the ladies that joined us on the podcast was it would be like, there was Britt, who was the you of the Wahine,
Mm-hmm.
and then there was a participant, and her name was Terry. And I'm sure she'd be okay with me calling her by name because she's by name in the podcast. Mm-hmm. Terry lost her husband, like 6 years ago, I believe, 8 years ago. And she lost him by suicide.
Wow.
And she went into a very, very dark place. She sold everything. She moved out of the town that they were in. They were in a town that was very close to this area that they went and did this outdoor adventure in. And she then moved back to town several years later, started a business, and then started hearing about this Wapiti Foundation and what they did, and went and watched the video, and like seeds started getting planted. And then she saw this wahine opportunity, and she's like, you know what, I'm going to do that, because she used to accompany her husband on every single hunt. She wasn't a hunter. She just wanted to be a part of the adventure. She has no problems with hunting. She just didn't want to be the person pulling the trigger. And so she said, I'll do this. I want to go do this. And it'll be the first time that she's ever done this by herself, because she didn't do anything post his death. And she said that the experience was absolutely life-changing for her. In that,
so cool.
She came out of this place, and this place is called Fiordland, which is it's described as the Amazon on top of the Himalayas. That's what the landscape is like. Primordial forests, ferns, mosses, 8 meters of rain a year in this place.
Wow.
Super U-shaped valleys, super steep. When you get through the primordial forest, you get out to the tops, which are these tussocks tops, just like sort of like the tundra, essentially.
Yeah.
And she said she emerged out of this forest, and they were in the tops, and she just looked around and sort of breathed in the spirit that is Fiordland, and she was like, I'm good now. And it is
Wow.
just like, and you just, if you know, I'm getting choked up and like,
Yeah.
and I heard it 3 days ago. Um, so when it comes out, I'll let you know about it and share the podcast. But
So cool.
it's just, you know, that's halfway around the world, and it's exactly what you're doing.
Mm-hmm. It's true. I had a similar, not quite similar to that, but I had a gal tell me that we saved her life, that she probably would have committed suicide if it weren't for my team. So, you know, when you hear stories like that and you experience it, it just feels like it's your purpose in life, you know? So despite the backlash or whoever is trying to tear you down throughout the process, I don't even care, because I would fight till the end to make sure that women had the opportunity to connect with themselves, to potentially change their life path. If I can be an instrument, you know, in that process, it fulfills me. You know, I could absolutely delete my social media, never connect with another woman. I could just go out and have all the fun myself, teach my kids, and just live a life alone, secluded. And I would probably love it.
No, I
But
don't think you would.
there's,
I don't think you
well,
would.
yeah, I might not feel
Because
fulfilled, right?
because
Like,
exactly. That's why
I
you're
wouldn't
doing what
have
you're doing.
that. Yeah. So I just, yeah, that piece would be missing. And I've just felt like it's been my purpose to bring women into the outdoors and to help them. And I also learn from them too. You know, I don't know everything and I'm not the expert at everything. I love bringing in women from all over the world because you learn so much from each other. And women really need that connection. And it's life changing for a lot of them. So
Have
that's
you
how
had
my
people apply
retreats.
from outside the United States?
Yeah, I had a gal from Australia that was gonna come, and then she had a big life event happen, so she had to postpone. Um, but yeah, we're starting to hit the global markets, which is amazing. And you know, I've had a lot from Canada too. That's kind of my neighbor,
Of course.
though. But
We
yeah,
don't
it's
count
just so
those as
cool.
overseas. Yeah, yeah,
Not really. Doesn't really count. But yeah, we definitely have connected with. I mean, with my other business, Bristol Bay Fitness, I've connected with people in England and trained people in New Zealand and Australia and definitely overseas. So it's really, really cool that I've been able to connect. And social media is great for that. It's a two-edged sword. I kind of have a love-hate with social media because it takes so much time, but at the same time, so much good has come from it. You can see all the negative you want, but you can also see and focus on the
yeah.
positive that comes through social media and the amazing blessing that it is when
Yeah.
you own a business and you're working to bring people together.
Oh yeah, totally,
Yeah.
totally. I hear the singing in the background.
Oh, yep. I like
um,
it.
love it. Yeah, you know, it's funny, you know, your Bristol Bay program for women hunters, the Wahine in New Zealand. You know, you got Brittany Janinga's, I think, She Hunts program in Texas. You got the Wild Sheep Foundation's Women Hunt program now. You got
Mm-hmm.
SCI's Women in Hunting.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing how all of these, you know, programs are starting to just come to fruition, and it's really not by chance. It's by de facto, in that the
Mm-hmm.
female demographic is the largest demographic of growing hunters in the United States and arguably globally, I would say. And there's certainly a niche and a need to be
Mm-hmm.
filled there.
Yeah, it's truly the biggest growing industry. I mean, it is just crazy how many women want to be involved in the process. And I've reflected on a lot. It's like why that is. You know, I think like when I grew up and where I grew up, I didn't know a lot of women that hunted. My mom did. So to me, it was kind of normal. But when I would talk to my friends or, you know, other people, it's like, oh no, we don't do that. Like my dad does or my brother does, but no, we don't hunt. Or I have friends now that their dads and their brothers didn't allow them to go with them. And so they had to learn on their own when they were an adult. And, you know, I was very blessed to have that opportunity. Some people did not, but, you know, it's just really cool to see so many women want to get involved and want to get their hands dirty and want to do it themselves. And also, that's how we preserve this lifestyle moving forward, because we are the teachers of our children and the next generation too. So if you can get a woman, in a position to be able to harvest an animal, process that animal start to finish, then cook it. Like, it's so empowering for women to do that. So I've kind of branched out from just Alaska. Last year, we did the first ever gathering with women hunters in Idaho, and I called it the Wild Women's Rendezvous. And so this next year is going to be the second annual one, and I made it big. I was like, okay, I don't just want 10 women. I want to see if we can bring in 50 to 100 women together and be able to teach different workshops and different skills. So we did that this summer, and it was incredible because
How many
the
women did
amount
you
of,
have?
we had 60
Jeez.
women and then 20 to 25 instructors at one time. So throughout the week, we had about 85 people all together that were all women, that were all outdoors women, that were all hunters, that all like love to do this kind of thing. And some of them very beginners that had never, shot a gun before, or had never shot a bow before, or had never learned how to navigate with a map. And it was just, it was really, really rewarding to watch that. And then this next year, we're going to do the same thing, and we're going to add some elk hunts to it at the same time. So they'll be able to actually go out and shoot an elk, process the elk, cook the elk, like start to
Wow.
finish. It's going to be very, very cool. And so, yeah, if you're looking for something a little closer that's not in Alaska, the Wild Women's Rendezvous is it. And then occasionally we host like some women
Let me
hunts
ask
too.
this question before you move on. Have you interacted at all with Jess Caldwell?
No, I have not.
Wild. She's got a company called Wild Kind Outdoors.
Hmm.
I'll tell you what. I'll introduce the two of you. She's your kind of girl. Okay.
Is she?
Jess, late adult onset hunter, probably in her late 30s, but completely just was like, I'm done with city life.
Yeah.
She went and
Cool.
freaking lived in the forest for like 9 months. Okay, she learned how to make fire, traps, all that kind of. Now she's like a full-on survivalist teacher.
That's so cool.
Crazy. And
Love
she just, I think she would be an extremely good asset to your program. Like, it's again another woman, strong woman,
Yeah.
confident, has been there, done that, has come from like I don't know nothing to like
Mm-hmm.
this is what I do.
Very cool.
I know plants, I know, how to make a fire, I know how to whatever.
Very cool. Yeah, I mean that's kind of what I did last year is I just wanted to bring in a lot of instructors throughout the industry that I felt like were experts in that field. So yeah, we did trapping and we did, hunting stuff, and we did all sorts of shooting, and we even went down to like women's health and wellness and fitness, and we had like 5 to 10 workshops each day that people could choose 1 to 2 of them and go attend them. And yeah, we had instructors travel from all over to help women. It was really, really incredible to be a part of and to witness, and it's just going to keep growing. And so yeah, any instructors you feel like
The
are a
other
good fit
lady
for that,
I know, the other
great.
lady I know that you may know, who would be freaking awesome too. Do you know Dee Dee Lancey?
No.
Oh man,
Hey, how do I not know
I'm going
these
to
people?
introduce you to like amazing woman. So Dee Dee
Awesome.
Lancey, um, uh, is she lives in Salt Lake City, Utah. She was
Perfect.
the former chief operating officer of Fieldcraft Survival, and
Okay. I know
she's
what that is.
into the breath work side of things. She does breath work. If people are
Oh,
cold
cool.
plunging, talking them through cold plunging,
Mm-hmm.
she is awesome.
Very
I'll
cool.
introduce you to her too.
Awesome. Yes, I need great instructors. It's great.
So tell me about, how do people, not people, woman, how do they get, so talk to me about the Wild Woman Rendezvous, what it costs, and then potentially like if they're interested in the whole Alaska thing, how does that work?
Yeah. So every trip, every event is under my website, Grenda's Getaways. And we just changed that name, by the way. We're rebranding it. Grenda's Getaways, that's where all of our events, retreats. We do some fishing trips. to Mexico and Costa Rica and things like that. And then I'm going to be hosting some women's hunts as well. So you can find everything under there. You can find me on social media. But the Women's Rendezvous, my purpose of that was for women to be able to do these events at a lower ticket cost because it's expensive. It's expensive to do some of these retreats. And my Alaska retreat is quite spendy just because of float planes and fuel up there and what it costs to get things into the bush on a barge or via airplane because there's no roads. So, that always increases prices. And so this I feel like is more of a entry level to a more, advanced experience. So it's $2,300 for the whole week. It's 5 days long. That includes all food and everything.
This is the women's
And you
retreat.
just,
The
yeah,
women's rendezvous. Yeah.
the Wild Women's Rendezvous, and it's kind of like a bring your own camp style. So we have camping areas. You can bring an RV or you can bring your tent and you just sit and camp with us. And we spend a lot of time outside. And then we have a nice lodge where we have meals cooked for us. And then you have all the workshops that you can choose from. And then all of the elk hunts, we might do some bison hunts this year, are all going to be um, at no extra cost for them. I also bring in Gunworks and they do their long range shooting school, no extra cost to them. So, it's been really great because I'm working to get a lot of, big companies that back me, which is amazing, to help sponsor some of these extra costs so that I can keep it lower ticket for them for the week. So, yeah, and if you just want to drop in for a day or two, it's just $500 a day to come drop in, take your workshops, full meals, and then yeah. So that
And
one
you can
is
only do one. You could only do 2 workshops a day, essentially.
up to 2, yeah, just
Okay.
because they're pretty extensive, and um, my hope is that people will continue coming back and taking out the other workshops they didn't get to because, I mean, I'd love for them to take 10 workshops in a day, but by the time
It'll be
you,
too much. Be too much.
learn something, it takes almost a full day to really like grasp the concept and be able to apply it. And so, yeah, we did a full day of gunworks last year. And so the women got kind of like the ballistic side of long range shooting, and then they went out in the field and did it. Same with the archery. So, yeah, there's many different workshops. Some of them are a couple hours long and some of them just take a full day to do. The wild game processing pretty much takes a full day just because, we're breaking down the meat ourselves. We're taking the quarters off. We're, taking all that, we're packaging it, we're processing it. We're not just waiting on the outfitter to do it for us. We kind of push them out of the way and say, we'll do it. We got this.
So do the workshops happen repetitively every day for 5 days? So you get to choose, or is it like, okay, the meat processing, deboning one only happens on Tuesday, and you're either going to sign up for that or you don't get it all week?
Last year we did themed days. So we had like a wild game, furs processing. So that was all meat processing, putting up furs, salting, drying, tanning, like all that stuff. This year I'm going to run it a little differently. It kind of depends on how people sign up, but we're just going to have a schedule. So the hunting, the processing is going to be happening every day. The shooting is going to happen probably 3 of the days. So it'll just be a schedule, and then they sign up for whichever ones that they want to do, which basically builds their schedule. So yeah, to be announced. I'm still working on getting all the instructors on board for next year, and as soon as I have everybody solidified, I'll be able to have the whole schedule of all the workshops, and then people can sign up for them. But we've already got over like 60% of our tickets sold without even a schedule out there. I think people really want to come, which is great.
Jeez,
But the
amazing.
tickets are selling out fast, so make sure you save your spot. You can
So
save your
when is
spot.
this? So people know, when is this?
It's June 9th to 14th this next year, 2025, in Southern Idaho. And you can reserve your spot for $500 deposit. So you can reserve that, and then the rest of your payment isn't due till June 1st.
Okay.
So it's coming up. I mean, it sounds far away, but it'll be here in the blink of an eye, I'm sure. Because that's
Oh
how it
yeah.
works with me. I'm like, oh my gosh, their treat's coming up. I
There
get
we
my
go.
act together. But no, I'm really
100%.
excited. I changed locations this year, made some changes after last year's feedback, so it's going to be better than ever.
Well, that's amazing. It's amazing to see, and it's amazing that, again, 60 people showed up last year. Who knows how many people are going to show up this year, right?
Yeah. Well, I have to cut it off at 60, I think. Just because the yeah, the space, and also the connection aspect to me is still important, you know. I tell people all the time, they're like, why don't you just make this like bigger and just charge more? And I'm like, because it's not
Mm,
about the money for me. Like, I have to truly stay authentic to my vision and my purpose in life. And I could care less if I make $1 or lose 2,000. Like, I just want to help people. And I want to be that facilitator that brings others together and helps them learn and gain confidence and potentially change their life path if they need to, or be able to accept the hard things that have happened to them and heal and move on. It's very healing for a lot of people too. And so, yeah, I feel that over 60 people, I can't know everyone's names. Like
yeah.
I can talk to everyone. Like last year there were 60 people. I was able to talk to everybody. I was able to learn and remember their names. I don't know how, but I did it in a week's time. And over that, I don't think it would be as personal, you know.
Yeah.
But then you
No,
get
it's
the
a good
Alaska
conscious
experience.
decision that you have to make. Yeah.
Yeah. Then you get the Alaska experience, and there's, 10 women. You really get to know each other on that trip. And it's a lot more personal than even a rendezvous. Um, but I love the word rendezvous, just being a trapper and predator hunter. I love hunting predators. And the random story behind that is one time I went out and I was trying to get on this wolf pack because they were killing a lot of our moose in this certain area and just wiping them out. So, because we have kids at home and I don't really have friends or babysitters there, my husband has to watch the kids when I go hunting and vice versa. So I was like, drop me off, we know where they're at, roughly. Drop me off here, and I'll sleep on this gravel bar and I'll hunt them the next day because the weather was looking good. We had a little bit of snow so we could track them. And I went out solo and he dropped me off. And where we're at, you have to, if you're in the airplane, you have to sleep the full night and not hunt till the next day. You can't hunt the same day that you're airborne. So he drops me off on this gravel bar and he left. And instantly I hear wolf howls surrounding me at like 100 yards. And I'm like, oh no, because I can't hunt. I can't shoot them till the next day. So, I've got my pistol, I've got my gun, but I can't do anything. Like, I really hope these wolves aren't just going to come try to attack me or something. Then I'd have to be self-defense and it would be a whole mess. So anyway, I set up my little tent, and it's almost dark. I don't have a bear fence or anything. I don't know why I didn't take one because there were still bears out. They weren't hibernating or anything. But it'd been nice just for my peace of mind. But all night long, that pack of wolves, there's 8 of them, kept running around my tent, sniffing my tent, howling.
Jeez.
And what I found is I had camped right in the middle of their rendezvous point because that's what wolves will do. They kind of have this rendezvous point where they come together, they gather, they kind of make a plan, and they go hunt. And so that kind of traumatic experience for me, I mean, it was really cool. But it was also pretty scary for me just being solo in the dark, unable to shoot yet. I had to wait till the next day. And then, of
The
course, they
big question
disappeared.
is, did they stick around in the
No,
morning?
of course not. So, and the next day I was kind of freaked out. So I didn't stick around very long. I was like, I don't know where they went. Can you come get me? I need to go regulate my nervous system right now. And so when I was thinking of this retreat, and every time I come up with a new retreat idea, it usually comes in the form of a dream, actually. And so I know it's like something I need to do. I was like, what am I going to call this? And I just kept thinking about that experience, like rendezvous point. So that's why I called it the rendezvous. Long story long,
Sweet.
was because I love how wolves and predators like come together and they make a plan and they go hunt. So that's what we do as women too.
Amazing.
At this trip. Yeah.
Amazing. If people are interested in the Alaska, when is that happening? When does that typically happen?
Mid-July, that's our best weather window in Alaska. I mean, there's still a chance for it to rain and stuff, but
No white
July is
stuff.
our peak bear season, peak fishing, and yeah, peak sunshine. So it's
Yeah.
light a lot of the day and doesn't get dark till midnight. Sun comes up at 4 a.m. So it's
And no
just,
white stuff.
yeah, no white stuff. So you're good. So yeah, this year it's July 13th to 20th in Alaska. all inclusive from Anchorage. So as long as you get yourself to Anchorage, I fly you out to where I'm at and handle the rest. And yeah, it's truly once in a lifetime experience getting to, you know, the full experience of where I get to live, from the bear viewing to, camping and backpacking. And like, we've seen wolverines on our trip, which I've never even seen wolverines in my day-to-day life, even trapping, alive. And sometimes we'll just have a wolverine come up and check us out at camp, and you're just like, this is so wild.
Amazing. Amazing.
It's amazing. Caribou running around and bears everywhere, but it's very safe. We carry a lot of guns, and we fish, and we just have a great time and connect, and we do some shooting and
Awesome.
stuff as well. So it's a really cool
Awesome.
experience.
Well, grendergetaways.com, right?
Mm-hmm.
grendergetaways.com if you want more information. Sign up for the Wild Women's Rendezvous. Men cannot, what's the correct terminology? They can't decide to identify as a woman for the rendezvous. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, though I hear that a lot.
That's not going to happen. It's not for you. Go on grendergetaways.com and get signed up, put your deposit in, and I will make sure I make the 2 introductions that I talked about for you. And thanks, Tana. I look forward to the next time our paths cross.
Thank you so much. Me too.